Real quick, before we get started, I wanted to let you know about some things coming up. If you are in the Memphis area or want to make a trip here, registration is open for the Memphis in May Triathlon weekend. PR Event Management puts on a great 2-day event. The Olympic Distance Triathlon is on Saturday, May 13th, and the Sprint is on Sunday, May 14th. This year, the event also has an aqua bike on both days. Come do one or take part in the Amateur Challenge and do both the Ollie and the Sprint Triathlon. I love these races and I participate every year. Registration is also open for the Annie Oakley Buffalo Bill Super Sprint and Sprint Triathlon on June 24th. Starting up again this year is the Shelby Farms Open Water Swim Sessions. Every Sunday, starting on April 16th, you can swim in Hyde Lake at Shelby Farms, where both the Memphis in May Triathlons and the Ironman 70.3 take place. I'll be there most Sundays, so I hope to see you there. Links will be in the show notes. Can you tell I'm excited about the 2023 season getting started? This week, we are getting a behind-the-scenes look at what it actually takes to put on a triathlon. I interviewed Pam Routh of PR Event Management and asked her questions about how the sport has changed over the last 40 years, what goes into putting on a multisport event, and what's coming up for this year in training. So listen in for episode 19 of the official Triathlete podcast. Hey, my friend. My name is Danita Jacobs. Some people know me as a nurse, a leader, and health expert. Other people know me as a coach, race official, and seasoned triathlete. But at the end of the day, I'm simply a friend with a mission. I want to help you transform your life. My goal isn't to help millions. My goal is to help you. Welcome to the official Triathlete podcast, where you will learn about all things multisport, broken down into bite-sized pieces, and how we can blend life demands with fitness goals. My approach is different because I am blending my 20-plus years of healthcare and athletic experience to help you be the healthiest, happiest, and most balanced athlete you can be. I believe in you, even if you don't. You really can reach those soaring goals, and I'm here to help you get there. I am so glad that you made it here. If you have a question or topic idea, get in touch and let me know. After all, this show is for you. Enjoy! Hello, my friends and fellow athletes. Thanks for tuning in. I'm so grateful that you're here. Real quick, before we get started with the interview, I still want to start with a little message from my Train with Heart program. It's my mission to transform the whole athlete, so Heart not only develops and prepares the body for improved athletic performance, but aims to optimize the whole person through healing, empowerment, awareness, reflection, and transformation. So each episode, I share a little snippet from how I help my athletes with one of these elements. Today, we are going to discuss reflection. Here is a little reflection affirmation I repeat to remind myself that my past is not a reflection of my future. No matter what your past looks like, you have a choice for your future. Here we go. When I consider my past, I choose to look at the paths that have brought me here, to this moment. I understand that these paths have brought me to where I am right now. I picture myself standing in the center of a vast crossroads. All around me are paths, some wide and some small. They go off in all directions, with many disappearing over the horizon. I know my past is behind me. I acknowledge my past. I understand the value in the lesson it had to teach, and I offer thanks for these. I continue to stand, feeling the path of my past behind me. I offer thanks, and then choose to release my past. I feel the past growing smaller and smaller. At the same time, a new, fresh path starts to open up in front of me. This one is bathed in a rich, golden light, and I feel the warmth from where I am standing. I see that this is my future, waiting for me to take my first step. I feel excitement at what is to come. As I stand in the center, I see the paths of my past and my future are connected. They are linked, but my past lays behind me. As I take a step forward, I feel the weight of the past fall away from me. I am no longer defined by it. I embrace my future. Today, I see the value in this moment. I understand that I am defined by my actions in this moment and that nothing else can hurt or define me. Okay, you've heard me talk about some of the local races that I participate in every year. The Memphis in May Sprint and Ollie, the Annie Oakley Buffalo Bill, and the Dragonfly Triathlon. Well, these races are put on by PR Event Management. Pam Routh is the race director, and over the years, I've developed a great relationship with her. I participate every year. I volunteer. My daughter's Girl Scout troop volunteers. My husband MCs. And this year, I will be officiating. When I started this podcast, I knew I wanted her to be my first guest, and I'm so grateful that she said yes. A lot goes into putting on a race. I've seen Pam work her tail off to put on such great races. It's a lot of work, but Pam makes it look easy. Now, I'll put her full bio in the show notes, but a little bit about her before we get started. Pam Routh has 40 years' experience in race event management, and she's a USA Triathlon certified race director. In addition to being a triathlete, Pam has been a participant and an enthusiastic volunteer and race director for events throughout the Mid-South. Combining her love for fitness and sports with her desire to give back to the community, she began volunteering for races with her husband, Wendell, and they later found PR event management. So let's get started with this interview. Well, welcome, Pam. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Anita. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, great. So your bio is going to be in the show notes, but I wanted to go ahead and give you the opportunity to tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I'm in the 60 to 64-year-old age group. I'm a female triathlete. I was a little kid growing up in the 60s. My dad was military. We moved a lot. And the one thing consistent was my mother always wanted to make sure we were good swimmers. We didn't actually swim on a swim team. So as a young kid, I grew up basically taking every class possible at the YMCA, beginner swimming, intermediate beginner, advanced beginner, on. And my brother and I got a YMCA membership for our birthdays every year so we could swim. And so I grew up my whole life riding my bike to school, riding my bike home, riding my bike to ballet class, riding my bike to the swimming pool, and running around the neighborhood playing baseball and kickball and things. So in the 60s, there really weren't organized sports for girls. There were for boys. There was Little League and baseball, Little League and basketball. And swim team was co-ed, but they didn't have swim teams in the South, not in the towns we lived in. So it was not even an option for us. We just swam. My brother and I could actually swim back and forth the long course of the pool 4 times in one breath by the end of the summer. We were in the pool every day. Growing up, I didn't know anything about women's sports. Our school had no sports for women. They had basketball and cheerleading. I tried out for both. I made cheerleading, but the advisor didn't like me, so I didn't make the team. I was terrible at basketball. But that's okay because I didn't need her. I decided to become a runner. So my senior in high school, I started running by myself. And I would run down to the bridge and back, and then I'd run down to the hill and back. Then I'd run to the main street and back. And then I just became a runner. Just because I wanted to do something that it didn't require me to do it with other people. I didn't have to have a tennis court, find somebody to go with. So I started college I ran in the mornings before school. I ran in the dark so nobody would see me. I didn't want anybody to see me running.
Oh, no.
I get into every single thing. I was actually a Clemson dancer, so I grew up dancing also, ballet and jazz. So I danced my whole life.
Yeah,
Danced through even moving to Memphis. I keep thinking I'll bring it back. So that was sort of a basically childhood thing, running around, swimming and riding your bike. So got involved heavy in dance, commuted again in college on a bike, and I was a Clemson dancer. So I moved to Memphis and started lifting weights at a French Riviera. They had Women's Day and Men's Day. Women's Day and Men's Day.
Wow.
So I went on Women's Day and started going at lunch because it was too busy after work. And a woman there, we got to talking, found out I ran by myself, and she invited me to my first 5K. I was scared to death. I thought everybody was in the Olympics that showed up at 5Ks. I didn't know. So I showed up and got a T-shirt because I was one of the first 200 people to cross the line.
Nice.
I thought, whoa, I got a shirt. I must be really special. I didn't know that, that everybody running was just having a good time. So anyway, we started lifting weights together at French Riviera. We joined Gold's Gym. I got into bodybuilding. I was competitive bodybuilder for about 2 years.
Wow.
Got out of that sport because of the use of drugs. I thought, well, I didn't get into this to be doing drugs to compete. I wasn't going to do drugs. I didn't need drugs. I could muscle up really easily. And then my friend and I heard about this thing called a triathlon. We were lifting at Goals, and she said, hey, there's this thing in Forest City. You swim, bike, and run. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I swam my whole life as a kid, and I got my bike. I'll see if the dry rotted tires could be pumped up. And she and I trained a whole month, and we joined the Y. And we went to do this race and got our butts just handed to us. We were like, oh, wow, these people are serious. So we better start training. So we trained the whole next year and did Memphis in May. Oh, that was in 1984. So I've been racing since 1984, minus got hit by a truck almost 6 years ago, and that took me out for the season. I had a fractured pelvis, plate and 5 screws. So love the med, region one. So I'd be back together again like Humpty Dumpty. So anyway, started triathlons in 84 and got into the sport and got pretty good, actually. Made it to nationals a few times and then actually qualified for Ironman Hawaii at the Memphis Triathlon.
Yeah,
Back
that's
then,
really interesting. I didn't know, but I guess back then there weren't a whole lot of Ironman athletes. So you didn't have to participate in an Ironman's event to make worlds at that
well,
time.
what happened was there were no Ironman events. Ironman was owned by a gentleman, and he actually had Ironman Florida, Ironman Canada. Had some European and other races in other countries, but you can only really qualify. And so there were so few qualifiers. Ironman came to legacy races. Memphis May is now 40 years old this year. We're one of the oldest continuous running triathlons in the world.
Wow.
In the United States. And so legacy races were approached about we could buy spots for the Ironman Hawaii, and then we could give those out. So we bought spots. We had to pay for them, $250 for every spot. And we had spots for pros and amateurs. I signed up as an amateur. One of my top competitors in this market signed up as a pro, and it's a good thing because I beat her at Memphis May. I was fastest Shelby County woman, so I got a spot. She luckily got to go as a pro. Back then, you could switch back and forth between pro and amateurs.
Oh,
So
wow.
I got to do Ironman in 1994. 13 hours, 28 minutes, and 29 seconds.
It's a good time.
So much fun. I did it for fun. I didn't do it for racing. I just wanted to have a good time. I took pictures. I stopped and visited with people. I threw somebody a can of pork and beans I carried for 100 miles.
What?
Well, I was always stopping on my long rides at Shelby Forest up at Drummond's to get something to eat. I was sick and tired of Fig Newtons and, well, there were no gels weren't invented yet. We had Fig Newtons and power bars and these really weird the power bars are like Bita Honeys. They're really hard, and you kind of had to warm them up to eat them or gnaw on them. Sometimes people cut them up and kind of melted them on their handlebars, and you sort of pick one off and eat it.
Okay.
It was not much to train on, so we ate real food. So I got sick of sweet things, so I would stop and get saltines and some little pork and beans without the pork. And I would eat them at the cemetery and then finish my ride. So I was scared that if I didn't eat beans, I couldn't do 100 miles. So I bought the last can of beans at the store at Drummond's, and I carried them in my necessary bag. And they check your bag at Ironman and look through it, and they're like, hold up my beans. I'm like, beans go back in. I'm picking them in my jersey. I carried a little can of beans about this big. I can't see that. I think potted meat, guys, little can of tuna, little thing of beans. And about mile 100, I realized I was going to make it. I didn't need my beans. And a little kid at a water table, I said, here, catch this. And I threw my can of beans at him.
Okay.
And took a picture of my speedometer. It said 100 miles. I had a little portable camera in the back of my jersey.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, I'm sure he was talked about that for years, that some lady threw him a can of beans.
Yeah.
Ironman Hawaii.
I'm not sure there's many stories like that out there, but I can identify with getting sick of the sweet stuff. When you're out there, everything seems to be sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah, one of my tricks was Ritz crackers.
Well, you're going to get Ritz crackers. Actually, somebody told me that somebody taken a wire and strung some caramels with chocolate on them. Anyway, I strung some of those things. I can't remember the name. Not sugar babies. They're like that, but they're caramel with chocolate. And I strung them on a wire, and I couldn't figure out how people were eating on their bike. They said they strung them across the aero bars, and they could lean down and eat it off the wire. I never could get it to work, so I quit trying to do it.
Wow, the things that people come up with.
Well, there were no gels or gummies. I mean, so we were trying to come up with stuff. So we were like, oh, that might work. It didn't work too well. And then I actually, Milk Duds. That's it, Milk Duds.
Milk Duds.
So Ironman's right after Halloween. So I took a little bitty thing of Milk Duds, and I had that also in my necessary bag. And I tried to eat one and trying to run and chew on a piece of caramel. It's not possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand. I have a hard time chewing when I'm out there, so I'm very picky about what I can. That is the nice thing about the gels, because you can just sort of swallow them.
Yeah. So great inventions, all that. So we laugh about what we used to could eat on bikes. There wasn't product available now. Now it's like pick your pick. There's a zillion bars. I think there was 3 bars available when I was doing Ironman.
Wow.
Flip bar, power bar, and somebody else's. It's gone now. So, long story short, I became a triathlete and never looked back. I've been doing the sports ever since, and trail run as well, lift weights, and do Tai Chi. Those are my favorite things.
Oh, great. Well, so what do you love about triathlon as a participant?
Oh, man, the community. I love the community. And And triathlon's different than other sports. You go to a run event, Danita, you beat me, you beat me. Hey,
Yeah.
nice race, good job, Danita. But in triathlon, you might have beat me, but I might have kicked your butt in the swim.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
going to come up, I'm like, great race. And you go, man, your swim, I couldn't catch you.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more grace in how we all approach each other at the finish line, because everybody there has probably got one thing better than you, even though you might have beat them.
Sure.
So there's always that, just the community of celebratory, and we're all here enjoying it. And I think it's different. I notice in cycling, they all huddle up to the team and go off and I think that's more of a head game of trying to keep on 3 days of racing and not letting your guard down.
Yeah.
We all posture before the race, but after the race, party's ready to start.
Yeah.
We've already done our thing. Let's enjoy the festivities and the awards. So I'm glad COVID's over and we start having real good parties again at the
Yeah.
races.
Yeah. That's very true. That's one of my
The
favorite things
community,
about it
that's the
too.
answer. I love the community.
Yeah. Definitely agree. So, do you have a favorite event that you've participated in out of the many that you've participated in?
Quite frankly, Memphis May is my very favorite
Yeah.
race. And
Yeah.
I took it over as a race director. I was so upset. I did not want to do it. I'm like, no, but we can't have the race if nobody will take it. So the guys in charge were going to get rid of the event. And I said, well, we can't let that happen. So the club took it over.
Mm.
And I didn't want to be in charge of any of the categories. So I just said, I'll just be the race director.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I know. I totally understand because, as you know, this year I'm going to be an official at your Memphis in May, and I am a little bit disappointed in giving up the ability to race it because it is just such a good event. But also, it's a good opportunity to give back to the community by being an official. So you kind of briefed us a little bit about this, but how did PR event management come about?
Well, actually, way back, the triathlon, and they were all run by volunteers. Then the Club Tri Memphis took it over. Then a company got started by my husband called Start to Finish Events with some other partners. A few years into their partnership, two of them got bought out, and the last partner asked my husband for a buyout. So they split the company, and I went in partners with my husband. I always wanted a female-run, minority-owned company, so we are a minority female-run company in the state of Tennessee. That was important to me. It was important to me also to go deeper and wider in the races. I wanted to give more support to the nonprofits and things we do work with. We provide race management for other people. So PR event management was basically formed for my husband and I, Wendell Robertson. My name is Pam Routh. PR event management, there's a lot of play on that. So if you're a runner or athlete and you have your best time, we call it a PR or personal record.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on your perspective, you might read PR event management. You might say, oh, personal record, maybe. If you know me, I'm like, oh, Pam Routh, it's her initials. Or you may not know me and you might think, oh, publicity, like public relations. We're going to get the PR out on the race. We're going to advertise that this benefits Shelby Forest or Shelby Farms or whoever it is as a nonprofit. So kind of a play on 3 different approaches, which is all really dovetails into what we do.
It absolutely does. I've always kind of wondered which one PR actually stood for, if any specifically.
I don't care. It's what you want it to be. It's your perception.
Yeah, because I've always thought of those 3 things. So you've been a race director for a while. What is your favorite thing about being a race director?
Day of race.
Yeah.
You watch it come together, and when you watch the sunrise and you see the swim buoys out, the boats on the water, the athletes lined up, everybody's excited. You got the finish line, the music going. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah. It does all seem to come together. That's my favorite thing about being there in the morning too. I just love when the sun's rising. There's a little fog on the water. Yep, you see the buoys, see the lifeguards and volunteers going out on the water, and just all the hype. It's there's just nothing like race morning.
And it scares the Jesus out of me too. I am scared to death until that last person crosses the line and everybody's safe.
Yeah. I imagine there's some anxiety in there, but also just a lot of work and a lot of fun too, though. So what would you say is the most challenging part about directing the races?
Depends. Sometimes it's kind of a safe course and working with law enforcement and sheriffs and police and everybody, park staff and patrons to make it all work for in the community. As far as the actual coursework itself, it's got to be safe. It's got to be well thought out. You have to really, we worked on the Memphis May course around Shelby Farms. We had 8 one-hour meetings trying to figure out the best way to do it and the safest. Safe. I got to return everybody home. I got to send them home to their families. I can't let
Hmm.
something happen to them. And it's my responsibility to make sure we have safe courses.
Sure, absolutely. So you kind of mentioned that too. What goes into the behind the scenes of running a race? I know you have to get city permits and coordinate with police, the ambulance. You've got volunteers, all the setup and takedown. I mean, what all does it take to put on a race?
Most of the year. It takes a lot of hours. Basically, I start members of May almost before the race is over. If I'm there and I'm talking to a sponsor, I'm like, hey, Danita, we want you back next year. Are you
Hmm.
in? You never stop. You actually, the moment you're there, you're already looking at, okay, what are we going to fix next year? Who do I want to invite? How can we make a bigger community? How can we get more peeps there? Especially after COVID.
So, I mean, you have to get city permits. You have to
So, so,
coordinate with the
so,
police.
so,
You have to.
so back to that. So basically, the first thing I do is if I have to set up a new course, the very first thing I do is look at my new course and I get with all the parties before I ever put in permits. I want buy-in from every person before I ever go put it into the permit office. You got to know where your votes are. It's like anything else you do. You got to make sure you buy in from everybody. Everybody feels good about it, and it's a win-win. So you get your course figured out, then you apply for all the permits. And I actually have to do city permits, depending on where I am. Sometimes it's county permits and sometimes federal permits. It depends on where my race course is.
Hmm.
I have one race course I work with 5 jurisdictions in Mississippi, the federal government and the state government. So it's 5 counties, state and federal government.
Wow.
Those meetings are 20 people in the room to go over the courses.
Wow.
So you do that, you get buy-in, you take care of all that. Then you go pull the permit, which is really just they're going to say, did you check with these people? You go, yeah. And they check. That's the easy part. Next thing is basically getting people informed after COVID. I think we had a lot of people just got out of routine and
Hmm.
trying to get people back into that. And then so you have to start your publicity early enough that people go, oh, I mean, there's a race this year? Okay. So you got to
Hmm.
start in October and November, Black Friday, to get people thinking about it. So they're planning and starting to train.
Sure. Yeah.
Then you start your advertising in the first of the year, January, and then you actually start your social media and trying to just build up the hype. I've been trying to work with a lot of different partners to do that, yourself included, some of the other sponsors that we have and coaches in town. And the good news is we have a really good community here in Memphis, and like everybody is very supportive of the
Hmm.
triathlons from everybody. It doesn't matter if they're a competitor bike shop, we're still on it together. So
Absolutely.
basically, we're planning everything down to it. Like now, I've actually got all the food secured. I've actually got the finisher medals. I just finished the order yesterday. T-shirts get ordered today. There's always something to work on. So
There,
every day I get
there is, and I know even down to the last minute. I mean, my daughter's Girl Scout troop has even pitched in and helped put together those race packets. It's not just handing out bibs. It's a
that's
whole
right.
whole packet of stuff and race numbers and helmet numbers and all the different things that you need. So there's a lot that goes into it. So what if you could tell your race participants something? What do you wish that they knew about the behind the scenes of the putting together a race?
Probably just know that it's not just a glass of water and a banana. It does take a lot of effort, and that I hope they do. I think most people really are not clueless. I think they see all the support and they go, "Oh my gosh, how do
Hmm.
you get all these people here?"
Hmm.
So, I just think that just be aware, and also be aware that the people there are actually maybe didn't free. They got up at 4 a.m. to go help you and hand you a glass of water. They could have
Absolutely.
slept in. So I just think being aware of the volunteers and all the people that are out there. I always kid around, it's really just not a banana and a glass of water.
Hmm.
Oh, race is easy. Just give them a banana and some water. And I think that something else that's not exactly about me putting on races, but one I'd like to just share that I think athletes get so excited about some of the longer distance events, they forget to enjoy the journey.
Hmm.
The journey is the fun part. I
It
mean, my
is.
favorite part of racing isn't really racing; it's the training. It's seeing
Hmm.
my peoples, my running buddies, my pool peeps. I just joined back the U of M long course pool just back opened, and I saw people I hadn't seen in 3 years that I swam with for
Hmm.
25 years. So enjoy the journey. I always suggest go do some short events, do a relay team. You don't have to go to the big enchilada. That'll always be there. Well,
Hmm.
maybe, but those longer events that everybody goes, oh, I want to do one of those. Well, enjoy the journey, do short ones. Also, it's easier in your family life and your personal life. You don't have as much
Hmm.
training hours in. And I know there's people who pick a giant enchilada long course event, and that's the first thing they do. They tend to burn out and die before that race is even done. They
Hmm.
finish and they hate it.
Yeah,
especially if you train with anybody. They all those long rides and runs with nobody. So I always say enjoy the journey, do some shorter events, and then you'll meet different peeps and get your peoples together and get your little groups to train with. And I think all those are things I'd like to tell newbies or people just starting that, that's another thing. Is just enjoy the journey. The journey is the fun part. Because I'm 64, I'm still training. Whether or not I do a triathlon this year, doesn't matter. I still bike, swim, run every week. It's my little schedule and lift my
of
weights
course.
and do my Tai Chi.
Yeah, definitely. I know that's one of the things I love about all the races that you do put on here in Memphis is that there is a nice variety. So, we have available to us a super sprint to an Olympic distance, which, for me, I love the super sprint because it just gives me the opportunity to just go just super hard. I mean, you're still going for about an hour, so it's not just like running your heart out on a 5K or something. You still have to pace yourself, but it is still something that's short enough that you can just go hard and go fast and recover afterwards. So,
Or do you
uh,
like some people just enjoy the day because it's your first one and you're just out there to
yeah,
finish it up
there's
and
that
it's
too.
fun.
Now, this year you have added an aqua bike to the Memphis in May. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, actually, it was last year. One of the athletes, a gentleman named Al Montgomery, I'll name my name. He actually asked me what I do on, and I realized he wasn't running anymore. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of my athletes that were runners who either for injury or overuse or just tired of running, quit running. And I thought, well, if I had the aqua bike, it maybe get people back. It's the 40th year anniversary. And also just that maybe it wasn't that hard to have to add another timing mat to do that, but it's not that hard to add that to the race.
Hmm.
So I thought it might bring back some folks who don't any longer run. I noticed that when I put on a large century ride down in Mississippi, the Natchez Trace Century Ride, and we have 1,000 people in that event.
Mm.
And what I laugh about is I said, oh, yeah, well, these are all the old runners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because almost everybody does them. A lot of them are ex-marathoners and stuff, but knees can't take more of the hips. They've had hip replacements. They're older. So I thought it might bring back another group of people to enjoy the festivities and getting back into tries, swimming,
Yeah.
biking's easy on the joint. So that was the reasoning really, was try and get a different group there and maybe get some of the older triathletes back into the fold.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's a great option to have. So, how has triathlon changed over the last 30, 40 years? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. What would you say?
Oh
What is
my
some of the
God.
big, huge changes?
Oh God, it's so funny you said that. Well, it's our 40th year, our 20-year anniversary. I actually had an antique bike museum at Memphis in May, and everybody pulled out their old racing bikes, and we walked around laughing at them.
Oh, wow.
And if we did it now, we would really laugh at them. So I used to have these things called Scott bars, and they came all the way out from your out handlebars, and they came in. But we started, there were no aero bars. Actually, bike, you actually put your foot in a cage and you pull down a leather strap to tighten your shoe into the cage.
Okay.
And we didn't actually wear bike shoes to bike in for triathlons back then. We wore our running shoes because there weren't step-in cleats.
Hmm.
There were no cleats. Then they created Look and then later time created a step-in cleat like ski bindings. And that revolutionized because then the cage with the leather strap, you would tighten down on your foot. And so you would have your full oval of your stroke, your up and your downstroke, but click in cleats made it even better.
Hmm.
Then they added float to the cleats, which gave you a little bit of a horizontal movement so your knee wouldn't get hurt.
Hmm.
We saw the index shifting. So it used to be you had to flip, you had to know where your gears were, and you'd sort of like fish around for your gears so you didn't make these horrible noises changing
Oh,
gears.
wow.
There were no disc brakes, so you only had the pad brakes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember when Aero came on, they weren't really sure about that. So we started clipping these clip-on Aero bars, and then people were getting skewered by them. So they had to change the rules on those clip-on bars. Now they're back to clip-ons, but they've been up and down by Aero bars. Then the tri-bike came, which was interesting with a smaller wheel and then a kind of a downhill geometry. So you were going
Hmm.
to be in Aero the whole time. That came about. We also ride our bikes on clincher tires with tubes because sew-ups were too expensive, but they were lighter weight. Now that's not even an issue. All kind of tires, whether sew-ups, I don't know if they have sew-ups anymore, and clinchers, they have lightweight everything now, but that's changed. It used to be if you were a really good athlete, you get sew-ups, and they were very expensive. And that means you actually glued your whole tire to the rim. People know what sew up means.
Wow.
And there was actually one woman in town who actually could repair sew ups, Susan Barnes. So Friday night, she'd make extra money fixing people's sew-ups
Oh my
because they
gosh,
were
that's
50 to
interesting.
$60 a tire, and back in the 1980s and 90s, that's a lot of money. They're like,
Yeah.
ooh, yeah. So it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to know, what is your key focus for 2023?
Getting people back into the racing.
Mm-hmm.
My timer called it. He called the life of the unscheduled, and
Mm.
I thought, And I thought, you're right. We were so busy COVID. We all went to our desks. We're on Zoom and doing all these things. We're kind of expected to be around all the time, where it used to be when you went in office, you had a lunch break and I go home now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now with that unscheduledness, we actually think it's taken a beating on athletes. So they can't schedule in the run at lunch or going to the gym or whenever they had that time, quote, off time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we've blurred those lines. And I'd like to see people get back into the sport, help people get refocused and come out of COVID and kind of come out of the cave, and let's get going, guys. We're back.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. That's definitely my focus for the year is what can we do to promote the sport? Because I just love it so much, and it's done so much for me, just on my own mental health. And it's just, everybody's so inspiring, and it's done so much. So I just want other people to experience that too. So, well, I really appreciate you taking some time this morning. I know you've got to move on to your next PR event. So I really do appreciate you taking the time. And I hope the listeners get something from this. And we are definitely looking forward to the season. We've got some good races coming up. And as I've been saying at the beginning of my episodes, Memphis in May registration and the Annie Oakley Buffalo Bill registration are both open. And they are great events. So if you happen to be in the Memphis area and are traveling here, then sign up.
Well, thank you, Danita. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
having me on.
Wasn't that fun? Pam is a lady that I highly respect and genuinely love working with. She has a fiery passion for multisport, and I love that about her. I've never met anyone so genuinely interested in giving to others, so I hope you enjoyed the interview. Next week, we are going to discuss a big topic. So you want to do an Ironman? Many new triathletes and seasoned ones get their eyes set on doing an Ironman race, but there are things you need to consider before taking on that 140.6-mile journey. Come back next week for episode 20 of the official Triathlete podcast to find out what you need to know about training for a full distance race. Talk to you then. Bye. That's all for now. Thanks for tuning in. I want to get to know you, so head over to trynursecoaching.com and sign up for a free 30-minute goal-setting session. Love the show? I'd be forever grateful if you left a review and shared the podcast with your friends. And remember, do things that are hard.